Good morning, students. We were very much into the short story, A Horse and Two Gods, and we were going through a clash of culture between Muni and the American. The main theme of the story was already unfolded until we read, isn't it? It's like the East and West opposition, which is reflected through the troubled communication between Muni and the American. On one hand, we have Muni, who represents the typical Indian native, who is very poor, uneducated, and then he does not know English, isn't it? Unable to communicate in the language of the American, and and he is striving to make a living, poor man. And on the other hand, we have the American who knows no Tamil but expects Muni to understand English. He demands from Muni that everywhere he went, people could respond, and why not you? So he expects Muni to speak English, rather he himself is not knowing the other language of Muni. And naturally he is wealthy, urban, educated, and is only interested in business deal with the Muni. Nothing more. He is so very materialistic. And then you come to know both of them are quite ignorant of the other's way of life. And the American tells Muni of the day when there was no power failure, when there was no electricity in his place, how they had spent 4 hours without air conditioning. It was unimaginable for them to have a life without proper electricity. And the West here is ignorant of the fact that poverty, hunger, bad weather, etc. Are everyday troubles in the East, in a country like India. And here we have the East-West opposition, which is highlighted through Muni and the American conversing in their respective languages. And naturally, Muni speaks Tamil and American speaks English. And the entire story is a conversation between these two characters, the typical characters. And this conversation builds up a climax by the end, when Muni believes that American wants to buy his gods, and American thinks that he has bought the horse. And here we come to know the materialism versus spiritualism, the clash between materialism and the spiritualism. It is one of the important theme of the story. And the American is linked with materialism and Muni is with the spiritualism. While the American is a businessman, very rich businessman, whose only concern is to buy the horse, whereas for Muni it has lots of spiritual or religious importance. And all his scriptural and religious knowledge is a legacy that he has inherited from his ancestors, being in the village. And like Muni, people in the village, they have their own traditional beliefs, rituals, and religious and scriptural knowledge. And these are some of the things that we had already done with. Now we go through, I think we had stopped with the page number 60. Okay, there we know Muni was about to speak something, and then the American interrupted, and then no one can tell what he was planning to say. By then the American said, "Boy, what is the secret of your teeth? How old are you?" Now Muni forgot what he had started to say and remarked, "Sometimes we too lose our cattle, jackals, or cheetahs may sometimes carry them off, but sometimes it is just theft from over in the next village, and then we will know who has done it. Our priest at the temple can see in the camphor flame the face of the thief, and when he is caught, he just stirred with his hands a perfect mincing of meat." Now see, here we are again coming into touch with the belief system of the villagers. They have their own superstitious way of thinking, isn't it? He is telling they used to lose their cattle, and then they they usually come to know about the theft from the temple priest. And what do? When they burn the camphor flame, they before the camphor flame, the face of the thief appears to the reflects to the priest, and so he is caught. Do you think all this happens? Yes, these are some of the superstitious belief system of our villages even today. Even today, people believe such kind of beliefs. And then he gestured with his hands a perfect mincing of meat means how you cut the hands, slice the meat perfectly, isn't it? So he showed with his hand in the way of cutting the meat, slicing the meat. The American watched his hands intently and said, "I know what you mean, chop something." Was he telling about chopping? No, he was telling about catching the theft, okay, the thief who carries away the cattle. And then here the American mistook him for chopping something. "Maybe I am holding you up and you want to chop wood. Where is your axe? Hand it to me and show me what to chop." Now he is telling, okay, were you busy in chopping or cutting the trees down, and how I hold you up from doing your responsibility? I can leave you, or tell me where you chop the wood. I can also help you. I do enjoy it, just a hobby. We get a lot of driftwood along the backwater near my house. Here, what is this driftwood? These are the floating wood pieces, okay. Driftwood is the floating wood pieces. And then he says that he used to sometime for hobby's sake, okay, for fun's sake, he used to be chopping these wood pieces. Now, do you think they came along with their conversation? Never. One meant something else, and here the other one understood something else. And then he says, "On Sundays I do nothing but chop wood for the fireplace. I really feel different when I watch the fire in the fireplace. Although it may take all the sections of the Sunday New York Times to get a fire started." And he smiled at this reference. Now here what all things he conjured up, you see, children. He came from the chopping to cutting woods, and then about his hobby, then about his Sunday engagements, and then he says about how he enjoyed watching the fire in the fireplace. And then he says how it takes long time for them to put up with a fireplace. New York Times is the newspaper, isn't it? The sections of the Sunday. They're supposed to be spending time for reading the newspaper, but then if they are to prepare a firewood, it used to take a lot of time, okay. And that's what he said. He smiled at this reference, and he was happy that he could speak all about this to poor Muni, who did not understand anything. But for American, he thought these things pleased our poor Muni. Muni felt totally confused, but decided the best thing would be to make an attempt to get away from this place. He tried to edge out, saying, edge out means he tried to move out, saying, "Must go home," and turned to go. Now Muni wanted somehow to escape the situation, and so he just tried to move away from the American. The other seized his shoulder and said desperately. Now the man understood Muni is unwilling to sell the horse. He understood that way. And then he was so disappointed. If there no one, absolutely no one here to translate for me. He looked up and down the road, which was deserted in this hot afternoon. The stranger almost pinioned Muni's back to the statue and said, "Isn't the statue yours? Why don't you sell it to me?" Now, the American, who was only interested in the horse, knew that Muni has not understood somewhat, and then he was desperately looking for a translator and found none. The highway and the place was already deserted. It was almost evening, isn't it? And so it was already deserted, and he knew that he is not going to get the horse statue. So he again asked, are you not the owner of the statue, and why don't you sell me the statue? The old man now understood the reference to the horse, thought for a second, and said in his own language, I was an urchin. Urchin means a child, okay? A mischievous child. This high when I heard my grandfather explain this horse and warrior. And my grandfather himself was this high when he heard his grandfather, whose grandfather went on with the grandfather and grandfather. Do you think this American will get along with the conversation? And then the other man interrupted. I don't want to seem to have stopped here for nothing. I will offer you a good price for this, he said, indicating the horse. He had concluded without the least doubt that Muni owned this mud horse. Perhaps he guessed by the way he sat on its pedestal, like other souvenir sellers in this country, presiding over their wares. Wares means good that are for the sale. Usually in India, the vendors used to sit with their souvenirs, the mementos, their small articles in front of them, and they used to sit and sell. And so he also mistook Muni, who was sitting on the pedestal of the horse, to be the owner of the horse. And so he said, why can't you sell the horse to me? I will pay you a good price. Muni followed the man's eyes and pointing fingers and dimly understood the subject matter, and feeling relieved that the theme of the mutilated body had been abandoned at least for the time being, said again enthusiastically, I was this high when my grandfather told me about his horse and the warrior, and my grandfather was this high when he himself. Again the man went on about the story of his grandfather and his grandfather's grandfather, who had spoken about this horse and the warrior. So from this we come to know this was an ancient statue which was from the very beginning. They themselves do not know when it was erected. And that too, now Muni was relieved. He thought the man in khaki had come with an arrest warrant for the mutilated body, the disfigured body which was found in the border of their villages between Kridam and Kuppam. And now he understood that the topic has been changed from the mutilated body or the murder to that of the horse. So he was so enthusiastic, he was so very energized. So he went on talking about his grandfathers who spoke about the horse and the warrior. The Tamil that Muni spoke was stimulating even as pure sound, and the foreigner listened with fascination. Now here you see the foreigners, for him the sound of Tamil was so wonderful, and he got a kick out of every word Muni uttered. I wish I had my tape recorder here, he said, assuming the pleasantest expression. Your language sounds wonderful. What did he say? The Tamil to him was, it sounds wonderful. I get a kick out of every word you utter here. He indicated his ears. But you don't have to waste your breath in sales talk. I appreciate the article. You don't have to explain its points. Now he is telling your language is so wonderful, and every stress of your language gives me a kick, a kind of special pleasure I feel when you speak. But at the same time, I don't want you to lose your energy in speaking on the article. I already like the article. You don't have to explain much about it. Now come to the point. Tell how much price he needs to pay in order to purchase the statue. Now this man understood nothing, but Muni went on telling, I never went to school. In those days, only Brahmin went to schools. But we had to go out and work in the fields morning till night, from sowing to harvest time. Now this is again a way of depicting the Indian village custom. What was being followed there. Only the Brahmins were sent to the schools. The poor low caste people were never permitted for education. So he says when he was in his childhood days, they were not permitted to go to the school, and only the Brahmins went to school. They had to go out and work in the fields morning till night, from sowing to harvest time. So their work was not limited only in sowing, but even reaping the harvest. And when Pongal came, Pongal is one of the feast, like what is a crop festivals you have, isn't it? So yes, the Pongal is also a festival of cultivation and the fruitfulness of the land. And then we had cut the harvest. Okay, they had already collected the harvest. My father allowed me to go out and play with others at the tank, and so I don't know the Parangi language. Parangi language means the foreign language, which is English. You speak. Even little fellows in your country probably speak the Parangi language, but here only learned men and officers know it. Now he expressed his inability to speak the language, the Parangi language, that is English, because he never went to school. Only the Brahmins and officers used this language. And he is also telling, maybe in your place even the small chaps speaking English, but here it is different. Only the Brahmins and the officials speak in English. So this is again a kind of what will I say, a reflection of the Indian village. Okay, how poor we were in our educational system. The foreigner laughed heartily, took out another cigarette and offered it to Muni, who now smoked with ease, deciding to stay on if the fellow was going to be so good as to keep up his cigarette supply. So Muni was so happy to see him being provided with a cigarette. He knew that if he stayed pleasantly with the man, he would again supply a cigarette more. The American now stood up on the pedestal in the attitude of a demonstrative lecturer and said, running his finger along some of the carved decorations around the horse's neck, speaking slowly and uttering his words syllable by syllable. Why syllable by syllable, children? This is also, he wanted somehow to make clear of his ideas to Muni, who never understood other than yes and no. And now the man, he went as slow as he could, deliberately, in order to bring some kind of understanding to Muni. I could give a sales talk for this better than anyone else. I can give you a better price than anyone in this world. I can give you a good sum of money. This is a marvelous combination of yellow and indigo, though faded now. How do you people of this country achieve these flaming colors? Now, India is known for colorful paintings. But if you go to the West, you do not find these kind of color combinations. No such colors you find in West. Because even in the dressing, you must see, they usually use the standard colors like grey and black. Most of them. They don't use so bright colors. But here, the man was so very well attracted by the mixture of indigo and yellow, which really looked so elegant, and he says, how do you people like India? So this is another way Narayan is introducing us our colorful culture compared to that of the standstill culture of the materialistic culture of America or the West. How do you people of this country achieve these flaming colors? See, children, when you are asked for some questions, to bring some references to the materialistic and the materialism versus spiritualism or clash of cultures, you can point these references. So underline these, some of the things where I explained to you about the materialistic difference between the West and the East and the traditional difference. So these things could be quoted. So underline these lines. Okay. Muni now assumed that the subject was still the horse and not the dead body, said, "Thus is our guardian, it means death to our adversaries." Now, he is speaking about the spiritual reference of the horse and the warrior. What do these villagers believe? They believe this horse to be their guardian. So, in the villages, they have got lots of belief system. And then he says, the horse. Maybe it is in the coming pages we will come to know what it referred to. Okay, so he says, this is our guardian. It means death to our adversaries. The enemies will be killed by this warrior. And this is our guardian of the whole village. At the end of Kali Yuga, this world and all other worlds will be destroyed, and Redeemer will come in the shape of a horse called Kalki. This horse will come to life and gallop and trample down all bad men. So this has got so much of religious symbolism with the horse. So he is telling at the end of Kali Yuga, this world and all other worlds will be destroyed. And who will come? The Redeemer, the Savior, one who is to liberate will come in the shape of a horse. What is the shape of the Redeemer? The horse. And the horse name is Kalki, and save all good people while evil ones will perish. These are mythology, okay? And the belief, people of that village believe that there will be this kind of Redeemer coming in the form of a horse, and that is why they have kept the horse and warrior as the guardian of their village. And now, while he was brooding on this pleasant vision, the foreigner utilized the pose to say, when he was still thinking, Muni was thinking about all this, his belief, and then this myth which the people believe as the Kalki would come and redeem them, he was still pondering. Muni was still pondering, and then the American made use of that pose. And he said, I assure you that this will have the best home in the USA. This will have, what is this? This here, the horse. He mean to say, I assure you that the horse will have a better place, better home in USA. I'll push away the bookcase. You know, I love books, and I'm a member of my books club. And the choice and Warner's volumes mount up to a pile really in our living room, as high as this horse itself. But they'll have to go. They'll have to go means the bookshelf has to be moved. Ruth may disapprove, but I will convince. Muni continued his description of the end of the world. Now, what this American is telling? He says the horse will have a better place in America. And where is he going to keep the souvenir? He says that his living room has a very good bookshelf, collection of the treasured books that he would replace with the horse, even if his wife would disagree. See, the valueless man. We find American as the valueless man. We know how treasured the books are. Books are the treasure house of knowledge. And then this man is telling he would keep this, just the horse, not for his spiritual important, but just because it is a souvenir from India, then he want to showcase it just for the beauty or for the sake of this, decorating his house. How foolish thought this man, uneducated one. And these all shows how materialistic they are. They don't have any kind of spiritual importance, or the value system is so very poor. And then the Muni again continued his description of the end of the. He had been pondering about the Kalki, the Redeemer, isn't it? So he continued again. He said, a Pandit discoursed at the temple once how the oceans are going to close over the earth in a huge wave and swallow us. This horse will grow bigger than the biggest wave and carry on its back only the good people, and kick into the floods the evil ones. Plenty of them about. He said reflectively, do you know when it's going to happen? Now the poor man is still so very spiritual, so he is speaking about all that he has heard and what he believes about the horse. He has lots of knowledge, okay, scriptural and really he is full with scriptural and religious knowledge. and it is a kind of legacy that he has inherited from his ancestors. He says the Redeemer will come in the shape of a horse called Kalki. The horse will come to life and gallop and trample down all bad men, and all the good people will be saved from the when this earth is engulfed by the sea water and the waves. The good people will be redeemed by the horse, which is so enlarged in a form above the waves, would save the good ones and would kick down the bad and trample down the bad men. And this is also very important. You can note down, you can pin it as reference when you want to speak about the spiritualism of Muni versus that of the materialism of the American. And the foreigner now understood by the tone the other that he was making a question. He was asking and said, I am not a millionaire but a modest businessman. My trade is coffee. Now he thought the Muni was asking him about his trade and business, because they are associated with only business. Their mind is all full with the business thoughts, and so the American thought Muni is also speaking about business. So he said, I am not a millionaire but I am a businessman of coffee. My trade is coffee. Amidst all this wilderness of obscure sound, Muni caught the word coffee. Okay, although he spoke so many things, but the word coffee was something which is a heard word. Okay, so he understood just the word coffee. Now the Muni caught up that word and he said, if you want to drink kapi, kapi is the Tamil word. Even in Malayalam we say instead of coffee, kapi. Okay, drive further up in the next town. They have Friday market and they open kapi hotels. So I learn from passerby. So he has never gone to that coffee hotel. He says kapi hotel, but then he has heard from the passers-by that there is nearby a kapi hotel. If you want to get coffee, that is better. You go to the other the Friday market. The foreigner said, I repeat, I am not a millionaire. Ours is a modest business. After all, we can't afford to buy more than 60 minutes of TV time in a month, which works out to 2 minutes a day. That's all. Although in the course of time, we'll maybe sponsor a 1 hour show regularly if our sales graph continues to go up. Now, from where to where this man has gone. From coffee, he said about the trade. Now he is telling about how the advertisement he has taken up in the TV channels, how many minutes of advertisement they have given, and how he wanted to establish his business and all that. Do you think there was any kind of understanding between Muni and the American? Never. So I think we stop here. We have again 2 or 3 pages more. We will continue in the next class. It's almost half an hour. And then children, by the way, when you read, please underline the references given to the spiritualism and the materialism, clash of culture, wealth and the poverty, knowledge and ignorance. So take some of the references when you are reading, underline them and mark them in your book as what is meant for materialism and what were the references for the spiritualism and the clash of culture, what brought this clash of culture, the language miscommunication, all this. Okay, so read it once, twice, so that you understand the lesson well. We stop here, children. So read the lesson as much as you can and then understand the lesson. Good day. God bless you.